Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're going to unpack one of the most famous, most debated poems in all of American literature, Robert Frost's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It's a pretty short poem, but wow, is it packed with meaning. So let's start with that very first stanza. The scene is set instantly. You've got this lone traveler, a quiet moment that feels almost like trespassing, and this beautiful, silent image of the woods just filling up with snow. It feels so peaceful, so hushed, almost like a secret. So who was the man who could paint such a vivid, iconic scene with so few words? Well, he was none other than the great American poet Robert Frost, a true master at capturing the quiet drama of rural life. Now, Frost wasn't just any old poet. I mean, we're talking about a literary giant here. 4 Pulitzer Prizes, that's just incredible. He was so respected that he actually read a poem at JFK's inauguration. But it's important to remember that behind that public persona was a life that was really marked by a lot of personal loss and his own struggles with depression. And that darkness, you can often feel it creeping into the quiet corners of his poetry. Okay, so let's get back into the poem and see how that atmosphere starts to build, right at this specific moment where the speaker decides, for whatever reason, to just pause. And the feeling just gets deeper, right? He continues, "My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year." You know, that last line is so powerful. On one level, sure, it's about the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, but it's also this profound symbol, a moment of peak darkness right before the light begins its slow return. Now, the speaker isn't completely alone out there. There's another character, if you will, the horse. And the horse acts as this kind of practical grounding force, questioning this sudden stop in the middle of what feels like a magical, quiet moment. And it's so interesting how he does this. The speaker imagines what the horse is thinking. This animal, this creature of routine and purpose, it just doesn't get the pause. It's almost like the horse becomes that practical little voice in the speaker's own head. You know, the part of us that's always saying, hey, why are we stopping? We've got to keep moving. And just a quick note on the language here. Back in Frost's day, the word queer just meant strange or odd. It's not complicated, it's just the horse's simple confusion at this very unusual behavior. And then the horse actually does something. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. In this almost total silence, you get this one tiny man-made sound. It's this small interruption, a little question shaking through the quiet. It's kind of cool. The poem's rhyme scheme actually pulls us forward in a similar way, propelling us through the snow from one stanza to the next.
And that tiny little jingle, it really represents so much. It's the sound of duty, of the world of people and obligations, breaking through the pure quiet of nature. It's a gentle reminder, for sure, but a firm one, pulling the speaker right out of his daydream.
And this, right here, brings us to the absolute heart of the poem. It's all about the internal struggle that our speaker is facing in this single moment of quiet thought. Just listen to this line again. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. It's got to be one of the most famous lines in all of English poetry. It perfectly captures the pull of this moment, the beauty, the mystery, and yeah, maybe even the profound peace of just stopping for good. So this really lays out the poem's central conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the woods. They represent solitude, rest, beauty, maybe even the final escape of death. And on the other side, you've got the pull of the world, all the duties, the obligations, the promises we make to other people and to ourselves. And there it is, the turning point. That one little word, but, changes everything. The speaker feels the pull of the woods, he acknowledges it, but in the end, the world of responsibility is the world that wins. So let's unpack that unforgettable ending and talk about why it's resonated with so many people for, well, over 100 years now. And just like that, the journey has to continue. You can almost feel the speaker turning away from the woods, facing that long, dark path ahead. You can feel the weight of every single step, the sense of a long, long way to go before any kind of rest is possible. The poem ends with these absolutely unforgettable lines, "And miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." The repetition Frost uses here is just brilliant. It's not just for emphasis, it becomes this kind of mantra, right? It's something the weary traveler tells himself just to keep putting one foot in front of the other. It feels like both a burden and a promise. And that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? What does sleep really mean here? Is it just the end of a long day's journey, or is Frost hinting at something much, much deeper? A lot of people read this as a metaphor for the end of life itself, a final rest. So here's the bottom line. This isn't just a poem about a guy in the snow. It's about us. It perfectly captures that universal human feeling of being tired, of being overwhelmed, of wanting so badly to just stop and rest, but knowing deep down that we have responsibilities and promises that call us forward. And that leaves us with one final thought for you to carry with you. We all have those moments, right? Those lovely, dark, and deep woods that tempt us to just pause for a while. The question the poem really leaves us with is a personal one. What are the promises that keep you going?